You know, I wasn't initially planning on doing this as a poll, but maybe it is, with just one question. Are audio reviews, are audiophile reviews on YouTube or in print or online, are they BS? That is the question. And what I mean by that is, can those reviews be counted on? And it's interesting because just before I turned on the camera to do this video, I got an email from somebody who bought a Vista Zest amplifier based on my review, my recent review. So the answer is, to that guy, yes. And he's a very happy customer. He's very happy with the Zest. So there you go. But in the broader sense, can you count on reviews? That is it. Now, I think this is a very complex question because I find audio reviewing, which I've done for over 25 years, it is a complex endeavor because there's so many moving parts. And by that I mean, let's say I'm reviewing a pair of speakers, right? Well, how I place the speakers in my room, which I know very, very well, will change the sound of those speakers. I will get too much bass here, crappy imaging there. There's a dance that occurs between me and the speakers to find exactly the right place. So I'm hearing them placed in a certain way in my room. I'm using different amplifiers usually over the course of a review because every amplifier I try will sound different from the others. And of course, the rest of the chain, the preamplifier, the DAC, the turntable, the phonopreamp, the cartridge, all of those things will influence the sound that's coming out of the speakers. So what is the sound of the speaker? It depends on all those factors and more. And I usually supply the information about the other components that I'm using over the course of doing a speaker review. So you have some context for that with my reviews. And I frequently talk about how loud I listen, what the genres are. I show you a lot of the music that I'm listening to. So you're getting the review in a context. And regular viewers of this YouTube channel, or going further back, people who read my reviews online or in print magazines, they kind of have a handle as to what I'm bringing to the review process. What this really comes down to is that the consumers of reviews, whether it's audio or wine or restaurants or movies or whatever, you guys, the consumers, have to find the reviewers that sort of work with you, that your tastes align with theirs. That's what it comes down to, because in the end, my reviews are 100% subjective reviews. Now, there are reviewers out there that are more, let's say, objective. They use measurements to determine the quality of the component they're reviewing. And that has value. It certainly does for some people, for some consumers of those reviews. Now, I would always question, I have a bias against measurements because it depends on the skill of the person doing the measurement. You know, any dope with a microphone and an app can measure, but analyzing the measurements, interpreting the measurements, that is actually somewhat subjective, right? Now, I've had conversations about this with Andrew Jones, the speaker designer, who started his career at KEF, I believe, and worked for Pioneer and TAD, and is now with MoFi. We've talked about this a lot, about measuring things. And he's put decades of his life into learning how to measure, which really means interpreting the measurement. Yeah, but that's Andrew Jones. And I'm going to link to this one interview I did with him, put up a still from that right now, and I advise you to check that out and hear Andrew's take on the whole measurement thing from the man himself. Hey, I want to take a pause for a second and ponder this. Audiophiles are a finicky group. We have very strong opinions about different kinds of audio. Tube amplifiers versus solid state, analog versus digital, horn speakers, electrostatic speakers. We're all over the place. There's very little consensus in audio as to what good sound is. Okay, and I love it for that. I love the diversity of taste in audio. But what about the professionals? They need to hear, like recording engineers, they need to hear what's on the recording, right? As precisely as they possibly can. And you would think that all of the monitor speakers, we'll just go with that, monitor speakers would have a similar sound because they just designed to be accurate or neutral, just tell the truth about what's going on in the recording. But that's generally not the case. That ATC speakers do not sound like Genelec speakers, and they do not sound like PMC speakers or Dyne Audio Professional speakers or Neumann Professional monitors. Now, all of those professional speakers sound different because the people designing those speakers have different priorities as to what good sound is. So even in the pro world, subjectivity reigns supreme. Yeah. So it's up to each, recording engineer, mix engineer, mastering engineer to find the type and brand of speaker that they can rely on to make those decisions about what's going on in a recording. Here's the thing. I think there's room for everybody in this space. Subjective reviewers like me, objective reviewers who use measurements and maybe even blind tests to come to their conclusions. It's a big space. We all can fit here, right? But let's say I review a product, a speaker, and I give it a rave review, and someone goes out and buys the speaker based on my review. Well, I think there's basically 3 outcomes. They either say, Steve totally nailed it. I'm so glad he turned me on to this speaker and I love it forever. That would be awesome, right? Or he can buy it and think, it's okay, but Steve missed this or didn't understand that. That's possible. Or this is a terrible speaker and I'm going to return it. Okay, those are the way it works, right? Unfortunately, there's no guarantees. But on the other side of the street, let's say the objective reviewer does the exact same speaker, comes to the same conclusion, it's a great review, and people buy it. Well, same thing happens. The person can say, yes, the objective reviewer nailed it. The measurements showed that this was a great speaker, and I'm hearing that, and I love it, and I'm going to love it forever. Yes. Or that the measurements didn't really mean that much. It's an okay speaker, and not that great. It's okay. Or the measurements were just completely wrong, and I hate the sound of this speaker, and I'm going to return it. Those are the possibilities. So there's no guarantee that a favorable review by a subjective reviewer or an objective reviewer will guarantee satisfaction on the buyer's part. The best way, and probably the only way, to reliably use reviewers is to, develop a track record, that you and the reviewer are on the same page. You have similar tastes. So when they talk about something you have some experience with and they nail it, you say, yeah, that guy and me, we're together on this. So when they review something that you've never heard before and you can't hear it in person for whatever reason, you can trust them that it's probably going to work out okay. Again, no guarantees, but that's really the best you can get from reviews. Now, of course, if you can hear the product for yourself before you buy it, that is way better than any review, that you can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can experience and have some connection to it, or you go, it's not really for me. Yes, if you can do that, I highly recommend it. And better yet, if you have a dealer, a brick and mortar dealer that's close enough to you that has a lot of good stuff, yes, absolutely. I'd say go there, compare product A to product B to product C to product D, to your heart's content, or whatever the dealer's limit is, right? If you have that kind of resource, a great dealer with great products, yes, you don't need reviews in that case. You should just go there and experience the products for yourself and make decisions accordingly. But the big but, as Pee Wee Herman once said, is not everybody has a local dealer. Matter of fact, most people do not have local dealers, so they have to rely on reviewers. Yeah, that's where I come into the story. Right? That's reality. Now, the other thing that I'm trying to do in these reviews, because I understand that most people that watch my reviews or any reviews aren't actually going to buy the product. They're watching reviews for entertainment and information. Now, having said that, I would say I think it's my job to turn you on to interesting products, cool products, products that aren't being reviewed elsewhere or rarely reviewed elsewhere. And I want to just say, this is cool. Not because you're going to buy it, just because it's interesting. Now, for example, when I reviewed the Deckware Zen Triode tube amplifier, 2.3 watts per channel. It's definitely not a mainstream design. And I reviewed it and I loved it. And in the right context with the right speaker, that's a terrific little amplifier. And they sold, for a very small company, lots of them based on my review and other reviews. But I took great pleasure in turning you onto something that you most likely would have missed. And the feedback that I got from people who bought the amplifier, many of them based on my reviews, they were knocked out by what this little and not at all expensive amplifier can do. When I reviewed it, it was less than $1,000. That's what I see my part in this story is as a reviewer, is to entertain and inform and show you what's out there that you might have missed. So are my reviews BS? Well, that's up to you to decide. If you think so and you're not a troll or whatever, you can go elsewhere. My feelings won't be hurt. It's a big world out there. So let me just touch on the idea of sound demos. Now, I know a lot of people out there who request them from me, like Gutenberg, stop talking, just play the thing. Just play the speaker, just play the amplifier. I understand the desire, but I've never actually heard on any other YouTube channel or elsewhere on the internet a sound demo that sounded like, well, I'm listening to the speakers in a room. It sounds like usually overly reverberant, very washy sound. No center focus ever was captured in a sound demo that I've ever heard. So it's hugely frustrating to me that there are people out there that want this thing that doesn't actually do anything, in my opinion, to communicate the sound of the products. But I have an idea. I have an idea for you people who like doing sound demos. Get a friend of yours who plays guitar and sings reasonably well, and just place them between the speakers in the room and record them singing and playing guitar in your listening room. Then take that recording that you just made and play it over the speakers in that room. See how close the human being playing the guitar it can sound to the sound of the speakers in the room, reproducing that voice and guitar. It's a fair guess it won't be close at all. And it is, let's say, doubly impossible, because when you record that person in the room, you now have a recording of the person in the room played back over the same room. So you have the room twice. You have double the reverberation because you have the actual reverberation plus, when you play it back over the speakers, the recorded reverberation. But I think it would be an interesting exercise, or not a guitar player, let's say someone playing the drums or someone playing a harp or whatever, anything which would serve this purpose. So if somebody does that, let me know. And here's the address on the screen right now to communicate that information to me. So summing up, I think audio reviews are fantastic, primarily as information and entertainment. Way down the list as a buying guide. If I do a review of a speaker and 50,000 people watch the video and 50 people bought that speaker, that would be incredible. It's usually not that kind of ratio, It doesn't work that way. I'm frustrated, so I'm expressing myself strongly. People do not watch reviews because they're going to buy the product. Generally, it's very, very rare. My reviews, anybody else's reviews. I remember one time years ago when there was a speaker reviewed by AUDIOPHILE and it was on the cover of the magazine, and I know from the distributor that they did not sell one pair of those speakers, and it was a very favorable review. So yeah, reviews are not really for shopping. And now the end of the ramble, and on to the most important thing, the audiophiliac viewer system of the day. Matt sent in these pictures of his system, actually 2 systems. He lives in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Now the first system's pretty straight ahead, although I gotta mention that these speakers, these Yamaha speakers, were a gift from Matt's wife. They are Yamaha RN 2000s. Pretty nice. And the turntable is an SL 1500, and the amplifier is a Marantz HD 880, and it's fully restored and rebuilt. Now in Matt's second system, this is a workshop garage system. It's all techniques. And the story is that he begged for this for his whole life. It was his father's system, and he gave it to Matt, in 2020 as a wedding gift. It's all techniques, electronics, ST930 tuner, RS M85 tape deck, SH9010 frequency stabilizer, SU 9070 preamp, SH9020 peak average meter unit, and there's a SE 9060 stereo amplifier times 2. Now the speakers are constantly changing, but these are the reference set, these JBLs, completely restored down to the speaker frame and rebuilt, including the crossovers. These are JBL 030 replicas made by SKC in 1979. They weigh over 130 pounds. Thank you so much, Matt. Okay, we are back. My name is Steve Guttenberg, and it's true. I am the audiophiliac. And you guys know that I have a Patreon, but you may not know that I am now, and for almost a year now, I've been making exclusive content, exclusive videos that were never shown here on YouTube, but only available to my patrons. You can join my Patreon for just a couple of bucks a month, up to $50 or even $100 a month to see those videos. But at the top 2 tiers, you and I will have a one-on-one private conversation every month at the beginning of the month. So please check that out. And with that, I can say my work here is at last complete. Thank you again for watching. I truly do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.